will double down, because it seems that people think that I regret saying it, or I shouldn't have said it because she ain't black, right? I specifically said to black people, stop wearing your blackness like a scab that you let any person pick off and put you through the pain over and over and over again. Stop wearing your blackness in this country like a scab. Be thicker than that. Be stronger than that. I still stick by my words. I will not change it. What Tariq Nasheed did was took that soundbite and said, she said blackness is a scab. She said blackness is a scab. That's what Tariq Nasheed did. And that's what this fool was echoing just now. The second thing is, people are confused. They don't know what Afro-Latino is. I am not responsible for your lack of education. I am not going to sit here and go into a soliloquy of the diaspora and the slave trade, but more than Africans were slaves, okay? There were slaves in Puerto Rico and slaves in China and slaves in Brazil and Cuba and Panama and Haiti. There were slaves all over the place. I am not responsible for your lack of education. Afro-Latino is not new. I didn't just invent that last week. Afro-Latinos have existed since the slave trade, okay? My father aesthetically would look like a regular black African-American man. My mother is more of a Spaniard Latina. That's why I look the way I look. So I'm not, it's funny that people are saying, she's saying the word black, but she can't say, you don't own, the word nigga, I'm sorry. You don't own the word nigga. And yes, I do have a video. My very first video on my channel is trying to get rid of the word nigga. And let's be clear, okay? I am born and raised in the South Bronx. My entire family is black and Latin. I have said the word nigga since I could walk. I stopped saying it, okay, because I didn't like it, because I grew up and I felt there was a better way that we can address each other, whether it's a term of endearment or otherwise. Because people think, well, we changed the word, we made it a term of endearment. That's bullshit, because when you're pissed off at somebody like I was, what do? Bitch ass nigga, fuck boy nigga, you a dumb nigga, you a stupid nigga. So the word hasn't really changed completely to be a term of endearment. And I said, you know what, and it's gonna sound corny, one time I was watching Oprah.
I'm doing this, I guess, intro later, but I did the video already, but don't want to re-say things over again. But this video is about the lead attorney going in with the 50-year-old Latina. That definitely triggered her. I have no beef with Jen, but it is what it is. She shouldn't be saying nigga. There are distinctions and specific things that we know that we shouldn't be saying about other groups. You know the scab that is to hear from non-ADOS people, even if you know that it's your culture and the way you grew up, you still know what it does to people, how they feel about it. But the fact that she has been vocal of focusing on Latino rights, which is what you should do, that should tell you that, like, I don't understand how the lead attorney fell for that whole I'm Afro-Latino, so now I'm in the room and I can say nigga, right? That doesn't give you a pass either. And the Rodriguez chick, which I'm gonna play the clip after this, she was basically saying, like, that's a new thing, like they just started doing that. But not to repeat some of the stuff I already said, but like again, Jen is the person you tag in when you want to have conversations, you want to go against the Beehive, you want to go get somebody. But likewise, when she'll talk shit about Beyonce, right, and you agree with her, right, I think Beyonce's overrated, I think she's an entertainer, but when you say something about J-Lo, she crushes her pearls, right? I'm like, well, wait a minute. You can go in on Beyonce's lack of talent, her lack of skill, and all of the stuff, and colorism and whatnot with videos and whatnot. But then when you like J-Lo trying to be a white woman in all her movies, the only time she played a Latino was when she was playing a goddamn maid. And she's not talented. I remember one time I said, hey ho, on a picture, just trolling because I knew she was going to get offended. She goes, why is she a hoe? Why she just, and that was just a joke that Jamie Foxx said. I also remember, so she defends Puerto Ricans, right? There's a clear distinction. She'll tag team you in and go in on that celebrity that you don't like, agree with her. But when you bring it back to her people, she gets in her feelings. Same thing, I made this joke, and I've been saying for years, it's not even my joke, it's a Mexican joke about like women with tattoos. I'm like, I don't want my girl looking like a wall in a Puerto Rican neighborhood. I said that one time on her post. Again, jokes. And it had nothing to do with the conversation. The conversation was like, how do you feel about women with tattoos? She hops on the post like, what do you mean? What's a Puerto Rican neighborhood? What Puerto Rican neighborhood ain't black? And I'm just like, yo, these are jokes. Like, and this was a joke from a Latino. Like, why does this bother you? Why do you feel some type of way? And let's not be dumb. Like, no, black people are not associated with tagging anymore. Like, we might have been there in the exception, but Latinos get the credit for being taggers and graffiti artists and stuff like that. It's been that way for a while now. We know when hip hop started, it was graffiti artists, MCs, DJs, all that. But as of late, it goes to Latinos. I say all that to say though, is like, she clearly understands what triggers her and her people. She clearly understands there are distinctions and things that she don't want to be heard said, and she's going to do it. She's not even political, but she defends AOC. AOC is a fucking idiot, but she defends her because she's Puerto Rican. Her authenticity of coming from the block, like Jenny didn't come either. None of that matters. It's just she resonates with her and understands that representation matters. So, but again, she'll have no problem tag teaming and joining the conversation, shitting on a black female celebrity, making fun of black women with fake bodies, all that other stuff. But then when you point that finger back at her and her people, she understands distinctions. But yeah, I had to throw that in there real quick. That shit actually went at the end of the video, but check out the commentary. The lead attorney goes in on Jen. They have a little back and forth. She dropping M-bombs. It is what it is, but that's my video. I'm out. So Jen, I know her personally, not personally, but I know her from over the years on Facebook. I've been in several different groups with her, bumped heads and not without over the years. And my overall take is that, and I said that in the comment section under the lead attorneys, Kevin Sambu got a pinned poster, and I said it underneath that video that she just got to stay out of black people business. Like, that's the overall theme of what I believe. But how this, her introduction to nigga YouTube, if you may, was, I guess she did a little debate with Tariq Nasheed or whatever. I didn't watch it. And I kind of, even though I don't agree with none of that B1 BS that he does, I kind of understood why he would come at her, because some of the stuff she does say. And to be honest, like, she be trolling. Like, she does. And she said that black people use her skin, use race as a scab or whatever. She knows that, and she benefits from that, or she partakes in that as well, because she knows how to trigger the word that she used on that show that she shouldn't be using. But yeah, like, her introduction was with the Tariq Nasheed thing, and they go back and forth, and I ain't even watch it because Tariq Nasheed done it's like 0-10 for debating people. But she comes on next and she does Cynthia G's channel, and she does a video with him, her, Cynthia G, and the whole point of that conversation was Cynthia G brought her onto that channel because she was going to try to capitalize off the beef that Jen had with Tariq, and she was trying to bring it over to hers and make it a broader issue and use it to attack black men. Luckily, Jen didn't fall for that trap. She didn't. Like, that was the goal from Nyla and Cynthia G, was to bring this Puerto Rican woman over here, this Puerto Rican, New York, that's what we call them in New York. They wanted to bring her over there and, like, get her to shit on black men. And as soon as she did it, you could tell she kind of tapped out and fell back. And you can even tell Cynthia G, who was being, not saying nice, but she wasn't going in, especially if they all knew on the panel that Jen only dates black men and has a preference for black men. So I think that would have been a whole different conversation too if Cynthia or Nyla knew it at the time or whatever. Even though Nyla's supposed to be Afro-Latina too or whatever, she's not ADOS. But that was the whole. See, Tariq brought her to Negro YouTube to debate her on the way she talked and some of the stuff he didn't like about what she was saying. Cynthia G brought her to the female Negro YouTube space to try to get her to shit on black men and kind of double team on the Tariq thing, right? Again, Jen did not fall for that. Then I seen her on Obsidian, and that was a whole different conversation. I think she was trying to be in the middle a bit on that post. But my issue though is, again, how she said the whole black people use race as a scab, whatever. She knows what she's doing when she says that. The way she says black people, she's doing that shit on purpose. She know that triggers some of you Negroes. And it's almost like this weird, like, there's no black and brown coalition. She's almost 50, and that's not no ageism thing. Like, we've been calling Jay-Z 50 for 20 years. Like, that's just what it is. So she's probably been around. She's from New York. So she was around with the Nuyorican and the beginning of hip-hop. Like, she grew up in that era. So it probably was a different space there. And New York is somewhat different, unique, because black culture and Hispanic culture is so intertwined. But that doesn't mean that we don't still have the beefs and the issues between, you know what I mean? Like, I remember having a Puerto Rican teacher who was like, his grandmother straight up told him, don't you come home with no black girl. He told us that. Then the white girl in our class goes, oh, my boyfriend's Puerto Rican. His dad told him, don't get with no black girl at all. And damn sure, if you don't want to fight and be like me and your mom, don't get with a Puerto Rican either. So all three of his sons had white girls. Ironically, some white-skinned Puerto Rican dude who didn't want to be Puerto Rican in his genes anymore. He wanted all his children to get with white people. So those issues and those things. And if you notice, whenever a Puerto Rican comes forward and talks about their situation and the plights and whatnot, it's usually them saying, like, yeah, we got some racism, colorism, blah, 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 in our side and issues. But that's always the case. Like, even AOC just said some shit like that recently, not that long ago, about about race and Puerto Ricans and whatnot. But it's like trying to say, oh, we're the same, but then again, you can't be the same if you're acknowledging that there's problems from your community with even within the darker skinned people in your community, let alone outside. But again, New York is different because, again, we, like, some people go to the same school group in the same neighborhoods. They give passes. It's weird. You saw Remy Ma defend Fat Joe, white-skinned ass, saying nigga. I don't think they should say it. It's not a matter about anybody should say it, and I agree nobody owns any words, but if I can't walk around saying spick, despite how it looks, I can't go around saying the kike kicked me, whatever. Like, there are words you can't say in our own, and if that group has power, you can't say it. So it's not even a matter of that. Yeah, I think it's stupid that we say that word. I don't buy into the whole we own it and we try to flip it and remix it and make it this and that. Like, no, it's stupid. And the time I realized that when I was little, it was like the first time you get caught one by a non-black person when they really mean it. Like, oh, now we can't remix this. But anyways, we all say it, and we probably shouldn't. But that's a black conversation, though. You shouldn't be in this conversation saying it. And that's just how I feel. Like, she should not be in black conversation. Now, from social media and Facebook, Jen has been like, this is my observation, it's like, when you in a conversation and women are bickering and arguing, going back and forth, and you want a pit bull to come in to do that too, because they got time, because they don't have traditional jobs and they got time, that's who somebody you tag in, right? You call her in and you tag her in to do that for you so you don't have to do it, right? But like a pit bull, sometimes they bite you. And when they bite you, you gotta put the bitch down. And I'm saying, if you are friends with anybody or around people who operate like that, they're gonna bite you eventually. Now, me, one thing I learned from watching her, Tom Likas, I think he said it years ago about how women are like children, you can't take them serious. But she showed me that because she's the type of woman, and you saw that in her response to Donovan Sharpe. It's like that will be all tough and butchy and respond with all this energy, and then revert back to I'm a woman stuff and you're a bitch because you argue with a woman all day. Like, okay, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what game you're on, so I just can't even take you seriously in real conversations because you're gonna bark, and then when people bark back at you of the opposite gender, you're gonna just resort to, well, I won because you're a dude and you went back and forth with me all day. So it lets me know how serious I can take you when you do stuff like that. But I recognize that in her. But I'm saying, like, people would bring her into conversations that they had an opinion of, that they didn't want. Like, and I know the guy that did that first, he don't even mess with her no more because they bumped heads on issues or whatever, on some issues. I know, like, there's mad opinions that I've debated her on and went back and forth with her to a point, like, I'm like, I said my piece and I bounced because, again, you can't take these type of chicks serious because whatever. But, like, I think it was talking about, what was it talking about? Oh, just hitting people. Like, one time the other conversation came up And I'm just simply saying, like, yo, it's not where you come from. You come from, you know, a stronger patriarchal type situation in New York, and your uncles and your dads and this and that, and men operated away. Might have been in some illegal activities and whatnot, and men don't do this and men don't do that. And shit. I'm just like, well, she's the type of person, and you see how her mouth could be, and you see how her actions could be, that feistiness that some of you Negroes like, quote unquote. But there are dudes who don't like that, and they will react. Call them bitches or whatever you want to call them names, but it would be in your best interest to not do those type of things. Or the word that got Stephen A. Smith suspended, not to provoke. She believes she can provoke, and then if you do anything or get out of your character and you hit me, you are a bitch. I remember having that debate with her as well before too. But I'm saying, it's like, it's not even about this 1950 stuff. It's like, yo, I would recommend that, no, nobody, you shouldn't hit her. You're going to take an L. It's going to hurt you more. But there are dudes who aren't built that way. And if you get in their face and you put your hands on them, they're going to hit you back. And that was the point I was making in that one conversation. I don't get why dudes get triggered by her saying she don't like dudes with video games. That's like stupid. Like, it is what it is. Like, she's 50. Most of you guys don't like women who are that old. Like, I don't get why dudes get in their feels about it. But she was trying to, one of the callers, the dude with the real moist, slippery voice, he when he called back the second day, he said that she was attacking all black men when she was attacking Donovan. And I understand kind of what he was saying, the way she was saying, because she just looked at his surroundings and his background, and she came at, like, oh, you just probably sit there and play video games all day. And she clearly doesn't. Just because he has that setup or that studio, she's making that assumption. So she is attacking a certain type of black man, or manosphere type of person, right, in her mind. So I got what he was trying to say when she said that. She was specifically talking to him, but she kind of like thought that she could just read the room, his background, and she made an assumption that clearly wasn't true. A lot of people have all that stuff and probably don't even have time to play or whatever. Boom. But yeah, man, I kind of figured that was going to happen eventually with her. Like, I knew. And to be honest, like, she's only engaging in these conversations with Tariq Nasheed, with Cynthia G, her, going on Obsidian. She's only doing that to promote her business, her movies. Like, she's an actress and a writer. And she's doing that because y'all giving her attention and cachet to promote stuff. That's not a bad thing. That's the hustle. That's the game. But that's why she's there. So I'm like, when it's serious topics and it's real stuff about black people, I don't think she should participate in this conversation. I don't think Puerto Ricans are period should be. Now, the fact that she has a daughter that's possibly half black and Puerto Rican, and she only dates black men, that still doesn't give you a pass to speak on these issues. It did bother me when she called Donovan, and I'm not even a follower of Donovan, I don't even watch his stuff, but she called him a bitch ass nigga, and I was like, no, you can't do that. I can't call around you a bitch ass spick. You shouldn't be able to call me a bitch ass. Despite it being in your vocabulary, you shouldn't be able to use those words. That's just how I feel. I'm from New York. I've dated a lot of Puerto Rican chicks, and I would never date a Puerto Rican chick that say that word. Period. Like, it's just, I couldn't do it. But yeah, that shit was crazy. The lead attorney, when he put his hands up and was breaking it down, and you see all them teethuses, I'm like, oh, he about to get in her ass. Like, and the whole I'm Afro Latina thing, I think that is a new thing that they're doing to disarm. Like, she's been the stickler for I'm not black, because it's on one hand you got some black people, because she said it in her group, she said on that live that it's a bunch of black people who tell you I'm not black, but she knows there's a other group that do the one drop rule thing and put her in as black. So this whole I'm Afro Latino, that's the last 5 years them saying that they doing that shit, right? And it's just to like get in the room, right? And it worked because the lead attorney felt that she should be able to say nigga because she called herself Afro Latina. I don't even think that's an excuse to be saying it. Like, there's a difference between us culturally. Plights might be the same or similar, but you know, y'all say the only difference between Puerto Rico and whatever is a boat stop, whatever. I don't get into all that, but culturally, we're different. And right now, being honest, like I did the video and I'll link it again. There's no Black and Brown Coalition. It was from Maze Jackson. Shout out to him. He did a video with a bunch of aldermen and politicians from Chicago, and they all admitted the same thing. Like, no, we use y'all, we piggyback off y'all issues, and we fight for our own, which they're supposed to do that. Can't be mad at them for it. Cannot the hustle. They're supposed to do that. They're right now when the situation happened in Puerto Rico, he was running for mayor at the time, actually. He was like, yo, we trying to get them, he wanted them to come to Chicago. Why do you think he picked Chicago? Because Chicago, if you just saw the last census, it lost a lot of black people. And this is like, there's vacancies in number wise, and that political power, like you've been hearing Roland Martin crying about voter suppression and the white people ain't being dominant no more and blah, blah, blah. And that's not benefiting black people. It's benefiting brown folks. And all that means is we're going to end up like South Africa, where the whites are the minorities, but they get all the wealth and the money still. So it's not like it doesn't matter. Like black people be sharing that like it's a sting or a response. And like the groups that's surpassing them is about to already surpass your black ass. And we've lost political power in places like Chicago because their numbers are going up, our numbers are going down. We're leaving for whatever reason. All the black people are running to Confederate red abortion law states. Georgia, Texas, that's what Nichols is running to. Ironically, they're leaving New York, they're leaving Cali. They damn near already, another group already kicked them out of California, but can't afford to leave none of these hypers, blue, liberal states, running to all these red states. Ironically. So racist there, white supremacy is the biggest issue, but you're running right to the people you accuse of being and operating that way. But that's just my take on it. I mean, I don't have no beef with her. I would work with her, as far as movies and stuff like that, outside of this YouTube stuff. I actually tried to get her to do interviews and have conversations on topics before she went on the Tariq thing. But I even gave her the scoop on what, like I messaged her, like, this is what's going on. This is why Cynthia G, because she didn't know anything about the situation. And she could tell when Cynthia G was trying to put her in to the gender war. Although she sees all the stuff, she saw how Cynthia G was trying to pull her into this black man, black woman gender war, and how she tried to position herself to come at Tariq Nasheed. Again, Jen did not fall for that. And then Nyla brought up some other issues about her being Latino and African. Again, like, I don't do that. I'm not calling Puerto Rican. I remember going on a date with one chick, curlier hair, darker skinned Puerto Rican. And 2 minutes into the conversation, she goes, I'm not black, I'm Puerto Rican. And I'm like, I'm not one of these Negroes that want to one drop rule you and make everybody black. So, nah. But then I'm like, let's dive deeper though. And I was like, so when you fill out applications for stuff in America, whether it's student aid or housing, whatever you filled out for, what you check? There's a nice pause. She's like, well, I'm not white, so, you know what I mean? She's like, I check black. I'm like, okay, you don't want to be called black, but you will check black on all them applications that you got to fill out, and they ask you for race. And there's no option for Hispanic on a list. You check black, and I just left the conversation at that. I'm like, all right, okay, cool. So again, I don't get into that. Like, I don't go why black people get into that. And I wanted to actually talk to her first about the situation that happened with Joe Budden and Senator Santana, and what Senator Santana had said on Trash Angela Lee's lip service, because I think that was twisted and manipulated all the wrong way. What I like, you can't put words in people's mouth, but the way she stopped and she called herself, it's obvious she was saying that she's basically saying black men treat her better than her own men. The argument from Puerto Rican chicks that I've dated that date black men, they make the same argument against their own men, which I think is weird, but they make the same argument against their own men that black women make against light-skinned black men. They're effeminate, they're soft, they're too pretty, blah, blah, blah. They see some of the, not the older generation, not Jen's generation of men, because she's almost 50, but like under that, they be like, they too pretty, and there's the other angle where they're over possessive, and that's one thing, that's why I know I didn't have a lot of male Puerto Rican friends, because they are, like, there'd be a Puerto Rican dude in the crew who date black girls, all that, but you try to holler at one of their cousins or sisters, they be mad as hell. I remember one time I was in a barbershop, And I God forbid, I don't know why I went to this barbershop, because it took forever for me to get my shit right, but I was struggling to find somebody. And I remember the first time I walked like blocks when I was in high school to find another one, because I didn't want to go to the Puerto Rican one, because I'm like, these motherfuckers can't draw this thick beard I got. They gonna draw the little pencil lines. And when I didn't end up going the first time, I'm like, I pointed to other dude like, y'all want my shit like his? My shit was still thin as hell. I'm like, these motherfuckers. It took like 2 or 3 cuts to get it right. But I remember I was in the barbershop one day saying, Puerto Rican, the dude was cool, the owner. He always would hit me as soon as I come in. I didn't have no appointment like that. So some dude walks in, dark skinned Negro that speaks Spanish. He was, I don't know what he was, but he was not just a Puerto Rican, he was some of them other ones, but real dark skin. Come in with this fine ass light skinned Puerto Rican chick. These motherfuckers huddle up, have a conversation, start talking. And then another one comes to the huddle like, oh no, blah, 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 blah. Like they say what he is. And they're like, oh, okay. Like they thought he was black. And they were upset for a minute. I'm just thinking like, they just did this shit right in front of us. They thought we didn't, you could perceive what was happening. They thought this fine ass, very light skinned Puerto Rican chick who damn near looked white was messing with a black dude. Little to know, he was just one of them with my complexion that spoke Spanish. And so I'm saying like, this energy between the two groups and all that, like, we're not gonna act like it's not there. It's there. And that's why I say we should stay out of each other's business. Black Americans don't be going to their conversations, and well, we will. And ironically, because that's one thing that Jen said, is that we don't march for the Puerto Rican dudes. And a lot of people did YouTube videos about the Puerto Rican dude in New York who got chopped up because the little hoe lied about who touched her. Or just came and cut her up and stuff. We did videos about that. A lot of black people were sympathetic to the situation happening in Chicago recently, even though I think the kid had a gun and the cop was going to shoot him like it's only seconds away. But that situation that happened with the 17-year-old in Chicago where he turned, the cop said drop it, and he got killed. Black folks covered that, and they added that to the social justice warriors conversations and narratives. So one of the videos she did do on Instagram, I don't know if it was on Facebook, was about, she started bringing up a bunch of Puerto Rican dudes who got shot, who were unarmed or what like that. And I'm just like, that's the type of corny stuff. I'm like, nah, just stay out of black people business. Like, if you want to go that route, go that route. But don't stay over here in our space, in our issues, in our conversations, and then bring up stuff like that. And I think she did do the interview with the one Puerto Rican chick that's she be on TYT and all that, the little liberal, feminist Puerto Rican chick. And I think they had a conversation back and forth, because I think she was trying to check Jen on that type of a conversation. But again, I think Jen knows what she's doing. She knows how to pick the scab that she complained that black people complain about. She knows how to pick it as well, and she uses it to her benefit. Again, I ain't not gonna hustle. That's just what she's doing. So it's like, how serious can you take her if that's the way she operates? It is what it is. But I remember I was in TMI, one of the Jason Black Facebook groups, and they brought her up to like, oh, why is she doing this, talking about black shootings and this and that, and I was like, well, she does have mixed kids. She was married to a black man, and she had 2 children. And I simply said that, and these dummies on Jason Black's page, these zombies who follow whatever the Mr. Oz says, is like trying to dig in and look for some dirt on me. Because I simply said the reason why she's engaging in these conversations is because she has mixed children. Like, that's it. That's all I said. Like, she has a son and a daughter, and they're black and Puerto Rican. That's why she's over here. And that's all I simply said. But they took that the weird way and whatever. Thought I was caping for her, whatever. I'm like, nah, she's a liberal. I don't fuck with her anyway. She be on TYT. But yeah, shouldn't be doing too much. It is what it is, though. I'm out.
And I was like, I think we should have a conversation about this, because one of the things that I want to say is that when we talk about Latinos, we erase Black Latinos, right? And so when we say Black people, we're forgetting that within Latinos, there are a lot of Black people. And so even though you are talking about all Latinos and you're saying the Latinos, when people say Black Lives Matter, they're talking about all the Black people, right? Because in Puerto Rico, they have a big Black Lives Matter movement. They took a guillotine to the governor's office, right? And in the Dominican Republic, there's a big fight there, and also in Cuba. So I thought that when we start dividing ourselves when we start saying that Black Lives Matter is saying Black Lives Matter all over the place, that's what the MAGA people say. And I wanted just to have a conversation with you because I just think it's important for them to see us having these conversations because they are always having the conversations for us.
I agree. I totally agree. So I don't know if you saw it was like a 10-minute rant. Well, I was just going off about,
which you do often. You have,
right? And then I'm throwing in my personal experience growing up, and I'm throwing in my struggle. So it's kind of like there's not enough time to get everything in, and I did the best I could.
Right.
My issue is that, right, when I say people talk about Black Lives Matter means all blackness, it does not. Because if it did, we would hear these Latin names, and we never, ever have. When I say never, ever, I mean I've never heard of a Latin name come out of the Black Lives Matter movement, and that was my issue. Not that I have anything against Black Lives Matters. They are putting the work in. They deserve everything that they are receiving, the press, the media, and whatever. So I wasn't saying it like, oh, I got something against Black Lives Matter. I was saying
I didn't think
it was like, we need to start something that focuses on Latin lives, because Black Lives Matter, although we Black over here, does not include us, right?
Well, what I will say to that is Black Lives Matter is two things, right? So it's a movement and then it's an organization. And so when I'm very careful about endorsing organizations, because when they get big, they start collecting money and then it becomes propaganda, right? And I'm not saying that that's the case with Black Lives Matter, because I don't know. I mean, I think Tamika's doing good work, but I do know a lot of Black activists who do say have been saying the names of Latinos, and there are a lot of Latino activists as well. The problems that we're having is that nobody amplifies the names of activists. They only amplify the names of celebrities. So when Junior was murdered in the Bronx, Rihanna led a movement for Junior, right? And true enough, Rihanna's Caribbean, so she also identifies with her Caribbean side. There are a lot of people who have been amplifying the names of Latinos. I mean, I've been doing this work since 2007. So for me, you imagine what I feel like when I see all these people now saying, oh, I'm Afro-Latina, I'm this, I'm that, let's do this, let's do that. I've been doing it, which is affecting my career, because people see me as a troublemaker and they don't want to fuck with me because they're like, oh, she doesn't bring that political shit over here. But I do think that it is important for us to amplify our names, but we got to hold ourselves accountable, because I think that Latinos don't amplify our names, right? So I do agree with the fact that we do need a movement, and I think in the spirit of allyship, I do think it's important for Black people to say. That's why I did that video 2 weeks ago, because people were sending me videos of Latinos saying bad stuff about Black people or being racist, and I was like, I don't send Black people videos of when Black people do it to each other. I don't send Black people videos when Candace Owens is talking. I said, so don't send me the videos, because I'm one of the people that's trying to do the work. So I try to be fair, because I want to make sure that, but there's no mistake about me loving my people. And actually, we're compiling a database of all the Latinos who have been killed by police, because there are a lot